We have been to the moon. We have charted the depths of the ocean and the heart of the atom. But we have a fear of looking inwards to ourselves because we sense that is where all the contradictions flow together.
And we need to be finding ways of minimizing the role of the deficits on the economy, on interest rates, on inflation. And so we need to grow. And if we can't grow out of this, these deficits are going to be becoming a big burden. And we're going to be really putting on the backs of our children, our grandchildren, a real burden of these massive, massive spends that we can't afford.
I think it's Larry Fink keeps repeating himself that we can grow our way out of all of the debt that we're facing. It's never going to happen. The amount of debt that we have is way too much. It's mathematically impossible. So the idea for us to grow our way out of it is not going to happen. Larry Fink is repeating this idea. Not only is he repeating this idea, but he's also repeating the idea of a public-private partnership.
And if they're unfettered, that could help the growth, which would therefore lower the deficit.
We need unfettered businesses right now. We need growth. And we're going to get growth from the private sector. We can't rely on public deficits anymore. The public deficits are just growing too fast as a percent of GDP. As a perspective, our deficits were only $8 trillion in 2020. They're going to be at $26 trillion, $36 trillion. We grew our deficits more than $1 trillion a year over the last 24 years. This is unheard of. It is at an unsustainable level. Yet we have the most dynamic capitalistic system in the world. We have great company. We have great ingenuity, great technology. Let it unbound, let it go, create great jobs, create opportunities, and we'll have a rising equity market that will really fuel this opportunity.
We're adding trillions onto the balance sheet. And Fink says that this has never been done before, but it has been done before. Weimar Germany had it happen where trillions of dollars were added to the deficit. So this idea that all these great companies and all the great technology is going to save us from the debt problem is a fantasy. It's not going to happen. What's more likely to happen is we'll see currencies rapidly get devalued, while we'll see asset prices continue their upwards momentum, continue the trajectory upwards. There comes a breaking point at one point, but it doesn't necessarily have to end with the end of a currency. It could very well end with the currency collapse, but it could also end with currencies being backed by physical assets like gold or like crypto.
That we've put in place to deal with these things. I mean, we are led by the least among us. We are led by, the conniving, the venal, the fat-assed, the rapacious, the stupid. And that's why we have the quality of mass experience that we have. And, democracy is, I think, not so much a form of government as a style of biological organization. All other styles of government spring from theories that are very tormented. Whether you have a king or a commissar, some tormented theory lies behind this. But democracy is simply biology. Democracy is everybody pulling their own weight. And I think the forward stride into the defining of human freedom took its last great steps forward under American inspiration. That Jefferson and those people actually were onto something. But what we have now has nothing to do with it. I mean, this is as much Jeffersonian democracy as, Jimmy Swaggart is Jesus Christ. What we have is a mediocrity, not mediocre, but media-driven. I mean, the idea that we hold fair elections in an atmosphere of such intense propaganda and hyperbole that Joseph Goebbels would eat his heart out if he could be here. So, the presupposition of democracy is an educated citizenry.
nature has order, it has rules and laws. Now, human beings' superpower is the collective. When everybody gets together and collaborates, man accomplishes great things. This is what decentralized technologies allow. It's a level playing field for everybody to get together and contribute towards a greater goal.
And we all have, certain answers to be given in this area. We should not tolerate cultural amnesia. We should not tolerate the cult of the utterly new because it's shallow and it carries no depth. I mean, there has been deep thinking done by people in Western civilization, but it's been largely compromised and betrayed over the last 300 years, and over the last 50 years, it's been made a mockery. I mean, I don't see any difference between the society we're living in and the society that George Orwell described in 1984. And you remember, atop the Bureau of History was the great blinking sign that said, "War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength." I mean, I'm surprised they don't put this on the masthead of the New York Times. It's a little gentler, you know. It's not the gray world of Central European fascism. It's the go-go beige fascism of Malibu trend setting and flogging people into conformity using advertisements, body anxiety, social anxiety, race anxiety to push you to spend money.
There are scientists that work for food companies that will find a certain amount of fat, sugar, and salt to make food as addictive as possible, to hit the reward receptors in your brain. There are scientists that are exploiting human beings for the purpose of money. So this is just the food industry. Think about politics. Think about all of the industries. They all have exploitation down to a science. They know cause and effect. The person that created an interrogation could get somebody to admit to a crime that they were completely innocent of. These social sciences are extremely powerful. So when you have mainstream media pushing fear narratives, they're doing this intentionally. They're purposely swaying the public to a specific idea.
As you know, I was a skeptic.
Yes.
I was a proud skeptic. And I studied it, learned about it, and I came away saying, okay, my opinion 5 years ago was wrong. Here's my opinion today. This is what I believe in today. I believe the opportunity today. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there's not misuses like everything else, but it is a legitimate financial instrument that allows you to have maybe uncorrelated, non-correlated type of returns. I believe it is an instrument that you invest in when you're more frightened, though. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, debasing their currency by excess deficits, and some countries are. I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence, and if you have an opportunity to invest in something that is outside your country's control, then you can have more financial control. And so I'm a major believer that there is a role for Bitcoin in portfolios. I believe you're going to see that as one of the asset classes that we all look at. I look at it as digital gold, as I said before, and I do believe there's a real need for everyone to look at it as one alternative to, I would say, the optimism that I have in the world. If you want to hedge hope, Bitcoin is not an instrument for hope unless you're hopeful you're going to make a lot of money on it. But I look at it as a vehicle in which you're expressing your financial acumen in something that you're more frightened of the world, you're more frightened of your existence. And I believe there's a great industrial use for it. And I think a lot of people are missing that.
They keep pushing this narrative that Bitcoin is a fear trade, and quite frankly, it's not. We've seen moments of fear. We've seen C19. We've seen other moments where the markets drop and Bitcoin goes along with it. Now, I will say that crypto works really well with currency debasement, but it works well with currency debasement when the markets are enthusiastic, when they're happy, not so much depressed. The Bitcoin movement, the crypto movement, has very little to do with fear. It has more so to do with innovation. Satoshi's white paper was a peer-to-peer payment system. It's about taking away control from the centralized powers and giving it back to the people with decentralized properties. And this stretches from computation to governance to data. Every single thing that you can think of that computing does, decentralized computing could probably do it better and open up opportunities that were never there before, open up markets that never existed before, and stretch the imagination as far as the eyes can see.
A global IT outage crippling computer systems around the world.
It all stemmed from a system update by the tech company CrowdStrike. Many of you may have woken up to this blue screen on some of your laptops. It forced thousands of planes to a ground stop, creating massive lines and delays at train stations as well.
Microsoft updated their Azure platform, which is a cloud-based platform. After their update occurred, there was a nightmare. Logistics companies, airlines all started to go offline. There was problems all over. And luckily, there's no major catastrophes. There's mostly inconveniences. Now, decentralized systems are failing, and decentralized systems are a solution to these problems that are being illustrated to everybody.
But first, the infamous ransomware gang Lockbit have posted to their dark web site claiming to have hacked America's Federal Reserve. The dump supposedly contains 33 terabytes of juicy banking information containing Americans' banking secrets. What that really means? Well, your guess is as good as mine.
Federal Reserve was hacked. 33 terabytes of critical information was stolen. Now, mainstream media did not cover this story. And CNBC, none of the mainstream media channels. I found some YouTubers covering it, but for the most part, this was a huge story that was swept under the rug. And that goes to Terence McKenna's point that this entire system is built off of hyperbole and trying to frame certain narratives. And we've seen resets being glamorized with Fight Club. Everyone's debt gets reset to zero. With Die Hard, there's a cyber crisis. They foreshadow stuff like this. They purposely inject certain stories. So,
in a group where there's always scandal and problems. Jay went through 4 years. There wasn't one scandal. I don't know, Jay, maybe you can tell me, but there wasn't one scandal. That is the most scandalous position because it involves massive amounts of money. With Jay Clayton, we had no scandal, zero, nothing whatsoever. So I thought it was great. But I have seen there has been a lot of use of that. And I'm not sure that I'd want to take it away at this point.
Jay Clayton waited until the last day as SEC chair to sue Ripple. So there very well was controversy. The reasoning behind it is still unknown. In interviews, he said that the timing just had to do with the way things unfolded. It wasn't intentional. But to me, it seemed very intentional.
It's a new cryptocurrency. And I couldn't believe the amount. And I'm saying, this thing has really, and other things I do, people are using it. And, I would be, I'm very much a traditionalist. I like staying with the dollar. You know that from when I was there. It's make the dollar the choice. I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country, just like losing a war. And we can't let that happen. And too many countries now are fighting to get off the dollar. And
When Trump was in office, what he did was he put pressure on the dollar, and that caused the dollar to lose value, but it also caused the stock market to continuously hit all-time highs. It caused an epic bull market. And now he's putting his hat into the ring into the crypto market.
Thank you. And I will also stop Joe Biden's crusade to crush crypto. We're going to stop it. I will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in the USA, not driven overseas. I will support the right to self-custody to the nation's 50 million crypto holders. I say this with your vote. I will keep Elizabeth Warren and her goons away from your Bitcoin. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency.
This is Garlinghouse as well as Larson's talking point that crypto needs to be in the U.S. Now, it's possible that he's talking about Bitcoin miners and other crypto companies, but it very much sounds like Ripple has had influence on this. If the U.S. becomes a leader in the crypto market, they can become leaders with Bitcoin mining. They can become leaders in a lot of different mining, but you have to remember, Ripple is a U.S. company. Their escrow is subject to U.S. taxes. They have to pay taxes on the escrow. Every time they sell XRP, some of that goes to the U.S. government. It's in everybody's best interest to see this U.S. company succeed. What we call reality is, in fact, nothing more than a culturally sanctioned and linguistically reinforced hallucination. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this, please consider joining my Patreon or my ghost site, dmjr.ghost.io.